Welcome to my video, drawing a dog's eye from a not so great photograph. Sometimes you're given a photograph to draw from and the reference isn't particularly clear. So I'm just going to talk you through what I do, what colours I use, how I get my eye to look realistic from a photograph that's not particularly great. So I start off with plotting the bits that I know are there. So the highlights I pop in. The highlights may well change later on if I feel that they're not working properly. I then look at including the bits around the outside of the eye. This is just to give me a little bit of form to work with, getting the dimensions right. I can tell through measuring, that I've got the eye the right size, it's the right shape. So just adding the hair around the outside of the eye, just really helps to make it a little bit more realistic right from the start, which then helps when I start to add colour into the actual iris part. So starting to add a little bit of colour into that iris now. I use a lot of dark indigo, walnut brown, just to give me the darkness around the edge. It is a dark photograph. I'm not going to create a really light eye because that wouldn't sit well with the rest of the piece. I'm adding in all of the dark bits that I can see. I can see, some sort of shadowing in there, some shapes. I can't copy it exactly because the photograph, it doesn't look so bad on here, but the photograph is really quite poor. So I'm adding in the main bits, but then I'm making other bits up as I go along because I know what a dog's eye looks like, and I want it to look glassy and realistic. My favourite colour for animal eyes is the cadmium orange, Faber Castell Polychromos cadmium orange. It's just wonderful to just lift an eye. Obviously you can't see any, well, you can see a little tiny bit of orange in the reference photo, but you almost use it as a highlight, and then together with the burnt sienna, it really does create realism. Strong in parts. Just a tiny wash of colour in other parts, and it really does give you a sense of the wetness of the eye, the reflection in the eye, and even though you can't see it in the reference photo, I have added it, and I will add it into the majority of my eyes. Even just a little tiny hint really does just bring the eye to life. I think that's one of the tricks of creating a realistic eye, is to add those bright colours that you might not necessarily see within the reference photo, but just to add that little bit of life, it really does help the eye to look more realistic. You can see I've actually covered over the three little highlights in the bottom of the eye that were there originally, that you can see in the reference photo, but they just weren't working. And sometimes you just have to use your integrity and just take something out if it's not working. It doesn't matter. You're not looking at an exact replica of the photograph, especially not if you're using sort of a poorer reference. And if something's not working, just leave it out. This is the white museum Aquarell dry on top of the Polychromos. Really great pencil to get a bright white over the darker areas, and you can see now that the eye is really starting to come to life. Adding a little bit of colour around the outside for the fur. I've really darkened those the edges around the eyelids, and I'm really pleased with how this eye has turned out. Here you go, comparison with the reference photo. It's not exactly the same, but it gives a really good indication of what the dog's eye looks like, and I'm very pleased with it. Thank you.